Welcome to the Enjoy a Cancer-Free Life podcast with Dr. Ted Koren, best-selling author of Cancer is Natural, So is the Cure. More than care for patients, Dr. Koren transforms lives. He teaches people an all-natural way to heal from and address the causes of cancer using the tools we all have within ourselves. On the podcast, Dr. Koren interviews other thought leaders in natural healing who share insights and information to help you live longer and better.
Dr. Simonsen, thank you so much for joining us in the podcast. For those who don't know about you and your background, would you mind introducing yourself, telling us about how you got this way?
Thank you, Dr. Todd. I came into naturopathic medicine through being an EMT for 15 years. And I wanted to be a ER physician, and I had a very serious illness and ended up with 3 near-death experiences. And I got introduced to naturopathic medicine, chiropractor, acupuncture. And in my last near-death experience, I was told to be a bridge between the medicines. And so that's what I've become, a naturopathic medicine specializing in integrative medicine.
So every person I've ever met who has gotten into natural healing, to me in a very sincere way, and that includes dentists, naturopaths, chiropractors, name it, they all have a fascinating history of often a lot of trauma and pain. So would it be improper for me to ask you about your near-death experiences?
No, sure. They started when I was in my 20s. Early 20s, and I'd been throwing up for years. They didn't know why. The doctors didn't know why, but it didn't stop me. I kept on. I was in construction, building houses in a family business. But it didn't stop me from working. But then I was doing my undergrad, and my first near-death experience was I was by myself, and that was kind of scary, but they sent me back, went into the light and sent me back, said I had more to...
You just died? You're just dead?
Yeah, the pain, I was throwing up just horribly, projectile vomiting, and the pain was just excruciating. The doctors couldn't figure it out. Finally, a naturopath did do a serum amylase, and they found out that I had pancreatitis. And then I had another near-death experience at my mother's house. And at that time, when I went into the light, there was a being that came and said, "You have to go back." And I argued with this being because I didn't want to come back. And they said, "You have to go back, and they would help me live on this planet. It was a little difficult for me to live on." And so then my third one, though, was when they did an x-ray and they found out that I was born without part of my intestine, and it's called the duct vodi. And they went in and they did surgery, and I have an artificial part here. And what had happened was everything that I ate, juices, and I actually had gallstones, of course, they were in the pancreas, and that's why I was so critically ill. So the surgeon went in there and he cleaned it all out, gave me a new part, and then I became a naturopathic physician.
Wow. And your goal is to sort of bridge natural and conventional healing?
Yes, I've been doing that for decades now. And we started integrative medicine in the hospital in Maui. That's where my license is, in Hawaii. And that was very successful. It's not successful now as things have changed, but I travel all over the world. I do international crisis relief work, or I have been for decades. And my training allows me to do just about anything that needs to be done. And but now I'm moving into a new realm, and that new realm is I've always, my motto in medicine has been, or in service has been, that you can heal yourself. And so I like to empower people to heal themselves. And after an experience in Bali where this woman was paralyzed, she couldn't talk, she couldn't walk, she couldn't even swallow. In a short period of time, she was completely functioning, and I'm talking weeks. And when I was asked, how did I do it? Well, I used homeopathy, and I did castor oil packs, and I did the Chinese medicine that I was trained in. I did all of those things, but the most important thing is that I believed in her. And she had the answers inside, just nobody believed her that she did. We had all these diagnoses, we had all these problems, but no one really connected with her. And when I looked into her eyes the first time I met her, I knew she had it. I could see that spark. And so now my whole new skink on the world is, you know more is the name of my business. You know more. Return to the nature of your nature. You have it inside. I mean, I treat people with cancers, with these horrible diseases that nobody else can heal, and people turn it around. Not always, because it's not about quantity, it's more about quality, especially with cancer, of course.
Now, this is something they don't teach in medical school or chiropractic school, or I assume naturopathic. They don't teach that aspect of being with the patient, really tuning into them.
No, we're taught as physicians to have the answers, and the patient,
Intellectually, not
yeah,
and from anywhere else, really.
right, totally. And my practice is now so narrowed down that I just ask the patient, well, what do you think? What do you think? And because of all my near-death experiences, although I was very in tune before that, I can see the future, I can see their past, I can see what's happening right now. I'm very visual. I can also hear. We can call it psychic, we can call it whatever you want to do it, but it gives me a lot of information. So if I'm talking with somebody and I ask the question and they say, blah, 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 well, I will have a different story sometimes. So then I can say, but what about this? And they go, oh yeah, right. Or yesterday I was working with someone and they said something and it was exactly what I was hearing. Then I know that we're on the right page. And within a short period of time, people can shift. They can shift anything. I've seen tumors this big disappear right in front of my eyes. I've also seen them grow huge in front of my eyes. Based on, I had a woman came to me one time with abdominal growth sent by a colonic therapist. And while I was doing the pelvic exam, literally her stomach grew and grew and grew until she was beyond 9 months pregnant. It was huge. And there was a black ball coming out of her vagina. I immediately called my surgeon, my OBGYN there on Maui, and got her over the hospital. But this woman had told me she had a dream that morning that her father had molested her. And when I got to the hospital, I told the doctor, I said, this all started today with this dream. And he walked up to the lady and he says, I understand that you had a dream about your father molesting you. You know what? I'm going to go in and I'm going to remove that and you're not going to have any memory of this. And sure enough, that happened. The woman now is traveling the world. She started a business. She works with women that have been molested and raped and things like that. And she's taken her mess and turned it into a message, you know?
Wow,
So
that's incredible. How can you teach this to doctors, to others? Or is it possible?
it is. I don't know a doctor out there that doesn't have the same abilities. Many, many years ago, I had an MD. I went to a conference where an MD talked about this. And it is becoming more mainstream. It's just that because of the legal aspects in medicine, I mean, it's like one of my ex-partners in business, he's an MD. Insurance dictates what he does. Also law, malpractice dictates what they can do. And it isn't, from my experience working with these people for all these years, MDs, we're very intimate with them. Their hands are tied so much of the time. They don't get to think for themselves. They don't get to feel with themselves. One time I had a MD that I was really good friends with, and he had a lady in a coma, and he says, Valerie, I just don't know what to do. And I said, well, go talk to her. And he said, but she's in a coma. And I said, go talk to her. So he went to her bedside, he held her hand, and he said, tell me your story. And she did. He got it. I mean, she's still in a coma, but he got it through the ethers, or however you want to call that. And what she said is that it's a problem between the children. So he called the children and said, your mother said there's a problem with your relationship. They did this little ceremony, which is called Ho'oponopono in Hawaii. It means to make things right. The family did it. The woman woke up from a coma.
This reminds me of what physicists call the information field, or other people call that, whereas the information is out there, and it's a matter of tapping into it. And we use, with KST, what I developed, we use something called the occipital drop, which gives yes/no answers. And then there's muscle testing, which gives yes/no answers. And there's the short leg reflex, and there's something called stickiness stick. The Ohura O-ring, you've heard, I'm sure you're familiar with many of these. I call them binary biofeedback devices. And that's digital, it's binary, yes, no, yes, no. But there's also an analog quality where you get all the information all at once. And it seems that you've gotten that side of it down, which I consider much more powerful, because you get tremendous amount all at once, and it's up to you to filter out what's going on. Is that a good way to describe it?
It is. And when you said the information out there, what I am finding, there's the microcosm of, we as humans are the microcosm of the macrocosm. And it's all in here. When you look at the DNA of a human, the DNA has more animal, plant DNA in it than human DNA. And a plant knows God. And I'm using that word just because a patient told me that. I'm not promoting God or any kind of religion or anything like that, but that spiritual connection. And I know that when we stay in our bodies, it will tell us. And I love what you're doing, yes or no. Because if it's not a yes, it's a no. And dowsing, pendulums, all of those things, they really work, but it takes a few minutes, or maybe, it's immediate. When we can get into our bodies, stay in our bodies, trust our bodies that it's going to tell us, it's immediate. And depending on, some people are so connected to spirit. I mean, it's just like they download, right? They're faster. Some people that have been, quote, indoctrinating with belief systems about spirituality, then it's maybe a little bit slower. A child, it's that fast. I could put 100 homeopathics on the table. They will always pick the same one and put it in their mouth. Always. They know.
Well, I think you alluded to something which I find really beautiful, and that is, this is not something outside of us. Doctors, real healers know, they do this intuitively perhaps, or just naturally. But it's so hard finding somebody like that. And you're out in Montana.
Well, today I'm in Bozeman, but I'm just traveling around because of the COVID thing. Who knows where I'll be next week, but I serve mostly on telemedicine now, which is really nice. I have clients all over the world, and I love it.
Now
I
you're
just
able
love.
to get information from them just by being on the phone with them or looking at them or perhaps just hearing their voice.
Yes, yes. As a child, I had the gift of being able to see things and know things. After the near-death experiences, it was really highlighted. But I learned very quickly that I can't go there without their permission. Somebody told me one time, this metaphysician teacher, who's a meditation teacher that I had, and he said, it's spiritual rape if you go where you're not invited. So being a doctor, if they walk across my threshold or they come on, on my program to work with me, they give me permission. And then it's like watching a movie. I can see everything. I can hear everything. And what may take years for some people to deal with a condition or a situation, we can get through it very, very quickly. And then get to, what is your soul here to be? What is it that you are here for? And then once the people get that, man, their health takes off. I'm not saying everybody, because death, life has an expiration date, right? Everything does.
Well, there's so many things to talk about. Tell me, what do you see for the future of healing? What do you see in terms of what we all need? Because you're one person, but in a more general way, what would be your advice for all of us, for humanity?
Listen. Yeah, to listen inside and trust that voice. Everybody has a voice, but we have different senses. So I'm real visual. I've always been, I can see, but other people hear, other people taste, smell, feel. I did a workshop one time in Guam where I took all the people that saw, I put them in one group. All the people that smell, put them in another group. And you can tell what your sense is by how you communicate. So if you are talking with me, you'll hear me say, oh yeah, I see what you mean. Or like I have a friend that she says, oh, I feel ya. I feel ya. Right? So she's an empathist. So once we understand what our greatest strength is, on these levels with our senses, then we learn to trust that. So if your gut says this is a no, then it's a no. If it's a yes, it's a yes. I mean, the first time, and the other thing that I use when people get a little confused, like it's overwhelming, like, oh my God, what are you trying to teach me? Or what are you doing here? You're really woo-woo, right? I have them draw a picture of themselves. And the first one I did was a little girl many years ago. Gosh, she's got to be 35 by now, I think. She had a urinary tract infection, and everything I did didn't work. So I was going to have to breach the thing of sexual abuse. That was the only thing left. And then I went, you know what? I'm going to have her draw a picture. So she drew a picture of her body. In her stomach was a red apple with a worm coming out. She had worms.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you picked it up though. You understood that. Not everybody would have.
And she understood that. She showed me. A few years ago, I had a man that he had a brain tumor, glioblastoma. Those things aren't so friendly, and they grow fast. I had a theory, and he confirmed my theory. He was really out of it, but I said, draw your body, and he could understand that, and he put a black spot up here in his head on the drawing, and then I said, where did it come from? And then he drew a line down to his large intestine and put an X there. And now the research confirms that glioblastomas are more like an amoeba. Well, that goes back to parasites, right?
Wow,
And
this is
a lot,
incredible. It reminds me of
yeah,
Hippocrates. All disease begins in the gut.
exactly, exactly. And uh, most cancers that I've worked with, parasitic involvement in some type, candidiasis, man, that even though it's just candida, it can it can destroy the body. And then the other thing, thyroid. Got to get the thyroid working. And the thyroid is your voice. Look at so many diseases, um, especially thyroid disease, is because people aren't speaking up. They're in jobs they don't like.
So this is a
They're
very mind-body healing you're looking at. You're, I guess, for an old word, holistic. You're looking at the whole person.
looking
But
at the whole person.
something touched me, which I like, and that is your gut feelings, or
Mm,
trusting your gut, you can say. Since
yes.
they say that one of our nervous systems, one of our brains is the enteric nervous system, which is the intestines, the gut. We have as many nerves in our intestines as we have in our whole spinal cord. So that's one of our brains. I'm told the other brain is the heart, and of course the brain in the head. For all I know, we have more brains. Possibly the immune system is a circulating brain, or the blood is a circulating brain. But how do we learn to trust? How do we learn to trust our gut?
I when I questioned it, is that I'm a doctor, right? And I'm supposed to have scientific proof, and I need to have labs, and I need to have research and all of that stuff. I had a couple people come to me, and they'd heard about me, right? And when I went into my scientific mind, they got mad. And they said, hey, we understood that you have these other gifts. We want to experience that. So then I started testing myself. So I'd say, from 0 to 10, how bad do you think the pain is? And then I'd hear 6. And they'd say, it's a 6. And I'd go, all right, I'm on it. I can trust it,
You
right?
trust.
And yeah, so it was just practice, I think, more than anything. And when there's a win, it's a big win. Like with my clients, when they say, I was working with a woman yesterday, and it's HPV virus, right? And she was going inside and she was working on it, and she said, okay, I did it. And I said, and she says, and I got goosebumps. And I said, great, that's wonderful. I didn't get the goosebumps. Let's go deeper. And we went deeper, and we went deeper, and we went deeper in her breath and in her knowing. And then there was a voice came through here that was so strong. It was her original voice. It was her truth. And she said, get out. And when she said that, I was covered with chicken skin, and I went, okay, she's done with this virus. It's
Wow.
it's
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I would say that because as we humans, we like to give labels to people who have talents and all. I would say you're a medical intuitive. Would you be okay with that?
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's always a
I
mixture. It's never one thing. We all have different unique ways of expressing our
yeah.
inner knowing.
I think when the biggest question, or the biggest thing that excites me right now, is medicine is changing so much. And I've always been on the leading edge of medicine. I was an EMT, going to be ER doctor, became a naturopath before naturopaths were really cool. We were just a bunch of hippies. There was no such thing as integrative medicine. I was on the leading edge of that with others, of course. And now I'm on the leading edge of that. More. You have the answers inside. We cannot depend on medicine. Right, in this COVID thing, it's been really great because great for me anyway, hard for me as well. I can't get supplements to people. There isn't enough supplements. There's not enough D3. There's not enough zinc. There's not enough vitamin C.
Why? Are people buying all this stuff up now?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And
Well, it definitely has changed. I go to the Amish to pick up, supplies, and I know two farmers, and each one of them said that their business has tripled since this craziness.
yeah.
They call it a shamdemic has been around.
Oh, that's really cute. I like that. I'm going to take that one home with me.
I'm honored.
But
Thank you.
yeah, the what I learned, because I had medicine shipped to Hawaii. Well, the boat sunk. Yeah. So all of the mail that was going to Hawaii, which included medicine to my patient, it sunk. My patient on Hawaii was going to sue me because I didn't get the medicine to her. And that's when I mean, it was just that after time, things happening. I can't get supplements. And I was sitting down and I was just praying and I'm just asking, Spirit, how am I going to serve these people? And they said, believe in them, Valerie, believe in them. So then all I had was, you've got it inside and you're going to fix it, because there's nothing else on the outside that's going to help you right now, because it's gone. Your medicine is gone somewhere.
I like to say that natural healers, empirical or vitalistic healers, as opposed to mechanistic, the medical model, are as such. The vitalists, the empiricists, the natural healers, they look for blockages, interference between you and your perfection. What's preventing you from tuning into yourself on any level? Whereas the mechanists like to diagnose and treat, often with suppressive medications, which drives diseases deeper. So I see that as the difference. And when you're talking about asking people to go deeper within themselves and find what they know is right, I think of you're helping them unblock whatever is interfering with that communication. How does that sound?
Yes, and the usually disease is, we call it disease, is that block, right? And what I've done with what I do now is I take that element and we give it a new job description. So I'm going to talk about fear right now. Fear is pretty big in the world, right? The pandemic, right? We're just fear-based, right? Fear is powerful. It's very powerful. But if we gave it a new job description. So this one lady, she had enormous amount of fear, financial fear, which I think the financial wound is much worse than the virus wound, right? Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, take that fear. What do you want her to be in your life? And she said, I want it to be my CFO, my chief financial officer in my business.
Fear to be the CFO.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And think of the power of fear. And she gave it a name. She called it Fancy, was her name, which Reba McEntire has a song about it. It's so funny. And she took that fear, became the CFO, and that woman turned around her life in a matter of days. She got in the driver's seat of her car. She said, Francie is my name, and this is what I'm going to do. And she did it. She was looking at bankruptcy. And she turned it all around when she took the fear, gave it a new job description, which I call repurposing. I wasn't raised, but I was taught for many years metaphysics. You take it and you give it to God and you turn it out into the universe, turn it into love and light. You know what? Give it a job. Give it a job. Give it an important job.
And I like that. That makes a lot of sense. That is actually manifesting stuff, not just making it disappear.
Yeah, because it's powerful. And it's been there. It's been a teacher. And we can take every element and give that, every element in our life. Cancer, I don't even talk about cancer. When I get a new patient that has cancer, we never use the word cancer. We give it a name. So one of my ladies, 4th time ovarian cancer, calls it a pickle. So when we talk about her situation, well, the pickle today
Ah, okay. You're taking away a lot of its power when you
gave,
control it.
and then a
Give it
pickle
a
to
name, you
her.
have control.
Yeah, and a pickle to her means something. And I don't remember what it meant to her, but it was important. One of my guys had HPV throat cancer, and he turned his into a mockingbird, or that's what he called it, mockingbird, because he didn't know how to speak up, and you know the whole thing about mockingbirds. And from then on, it became known as mockingbird. That guy completely healed himself. He did the radiation. He did everything natural. He did the internal work of speaking up in his relationship with his family. And today he's completely free of HPV.
Do you find a lot of dental issues involved as a source of toxicity in your work?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I personally can testify to that. I got really, really sick last, was it December? I had a tooth down here. This tooth has bothered me since I was a child, and it blew up Christmas or New Year's Eve. It blew up, and there was a doctor in California. He said, "You know what? I'll do all I can do, but I don't know." And he looked at it and he said, "I don't think I can get that out." And I said, "You have to take that out." And he had to cut the tooth. It was a major, major extraction.
Yeah.
My whole life, I had swollen lymph nodes on this side. I always had a toothache. They had capped it with a gold cap. I'd walk by a radio and the radio would come through my mouth and it would hurt my whole life. And I was always on edge. When he pulled that whole thing out, the root had gone underneath the nerve. When he finally extracted that out, I literally saw evil leave my mouth, go out the window. And I instantly felt better. That tooth was the pancreas tooth.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Related to the meridian. And I had pancreatitis.
Boy. Yeah. Do you see that in a lot of your own patients?
I do. Yep. The mouth is the gateway to health. Unfortunately, I was raised in rural Montana. We didn't even have toothbrushes. We didn't even have that kind of thing. So I had a poor start. And I've dealt with that a lot of my life.
Sure.
But I think it is so important. And I'm pretty strong on environmental dentistry. And like I had just recently had a lady that needed something done. I know a really good doctor down in Los Angeles. She wasn't very far from there. And she got in there, she did have a root canal, but she had it done with environmental dentistry, which uses ozone, laser, all the top newest things.
Right.
Because the old way of doing root canals, that's just locking the poisons in, and then you're going to see other diseases later. And it does follow the meridians. That is so accurate.
So I have noticed that cancer being a disease of toxicity, often the dental issue is important in many people. Have you noticed that as well with cancer?
I could say, every one of them. Every one of them. That and thyroid, Doc. That and thyroid.
It's such a big issue these days.
Well, when they were doing the nuclear testing many, many years ago, and then the radiation went all over the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that radioactive activity, that affects the thyroid. And then all the EMF stuff. So those are environmental things. But more importantly is people don't know how to speak up. I love nonviolent communications. And Dr. Rosenthal, I studied with him in medical school. We need to learn what our needs are. And then we need to learn to express those. And then we need to listen to our, call it our heart, call it our gut, right? Listen to our knowing, and then listen to others.
I love this. This makes perfect sense. It dovetails so much with what I've been teaching for the last 15 or so years, teaching
That's great.
people to listen. And actually, when I developed my work, I showed it to a friend right away who was nearby. And he said, "You know what you've got here?" I said, "No," because I still was learning. He said, "You are tricking doctors into tuning into their inner knowing." And it turns out that we've had it beaten out of us with our education. We stopped feeling.
Totally. Yeah.
And so I think that's just what you're doing too. We're sort of doing something very similar in some ways. And I'm gratified to hear it.
That's really wonderful. I'm glad you're doing that, because I haven't met, well, I do know one physician that wasn't nice. He was naughty. He was mentally ill. But all the guys that I work, all the women that I work with, they care about their clients. They want to do what's right. It's just that they have been taught that you need to do this, where's the study that proves this, and we get all these lab tests. And now labs are so elaborate. I mean, I get a 20-page thing done on genetics, and it's like, it's just amazing amount of information. But the bottom line is, are you speaking your truth? What are you eating? I had a woman that had a number of different kind of cancers. No one ever talked to her about changing her diet. Yeah, she was eating white flour, white sugar.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've had patients who've been to loads of other doctors, and the most obvious things are not discussed. Yeah. And you're totally right. Do you have a book? Do you have websites? How can people learn more about what you're doing? It sounds great.
Great, thanks. My website is ValerieSimonsen.com. And in that, right now, all my books are getting put over into ebooks. But all my information is on my website, drvaleriesimonsen.com. And that's SIMONSEN.com.
Well, I'm going to have this in the little transcript we make so that everybody can read it as well. But
that's
yeah. Well, I'm really touched by your warmth and compassion. You're just an exceptional person, and I think you really show me that you can turn things around. Even the worst things in your life can be turned into healing experiences.
And they always are.
So
thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you, and I hope we'll get to speak again.
I look forward to that day. Aloha.
Aloha. Bye-bye.
I believe in you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.